Welcome back to the channel. I'd like to talk a little bit about DVOMs today, meters. We use these day in and day out in the shop, especially when it comes to electrical diagnosis, which everything as a technician that you touch in this day and age is electrical. It doesn't matter what you're working on. If I need to diagnose a transmission problem, okay, I got a valve body full of solenoids, I have a transmission control module, I have a wire harness, I have all kinds of things that I have to take into account. Same thing with engines. It really doesn't matter. Everything is electrical. So electrical is foundation for technicians. Everybody needs to be proficient at it to be successful in this industry in this day and age. So I wanted to talk about this meter right here, which is a Fluke 87 V, or 87 version 5 is what we're up to now. Whatever type of a meter you decide to use day to day, make sure it has all the features that you need. Does it need to be a Fluke? No. Fluke meters are expensive. I can tell you why I like Fluke meters. I own a Fluke 88 version 5. The reason why, it was the very first meter I bought in the 90s when I started in this industry. And my very first Fluke meter lasted 19 years and held up through a lot of abuse over the years. So I replaced that original Fluke 88 that I had with another Fluke 88, which is also up to a version 5. Really, really good meters. Now, I will say this, just look and see what's out there in the market, because you have a lot of meters now that can be paired with an app on your phone, so you have a remote meter screen. In case you're having to, let's say, drive a truck or an SUV, a car, whatever, and you're trying to monitor a circuit and you have that meter plugged into the circuit, maybe in the back of the car, and you're driving down the road. Well, if you're looking for something to glitch or hiccup, you've got a remote screen right there on your phone, on your app. Plus those apps will capture all that information, take a snapshot of it, and it could be emailed, whatever the case is. It can store it in its history, so you have a record of it. So definitely a great help to technicians to have a remote meter screen. Fluke actually offers a meter with some Bluetooth capabilities as well. But I can tell you that a Fluke 87 or a Fluke 88, and I'm not endorsing Fluke, and they're definitely not paying me or giving me anything to create this video. I'm just telling you that a Fluke 87 or a Fluke 88, when it comes to the automotive industry, will do everything that you need it to do. So let's just talk a little bit about this meter and kind of get familiar with it. Of course, inside this little yellow case, this is a little shock-proof case here that, if it gets dropped on the shop floor. I even had mine on top of a toolbox in the back of a truck, and I took it on a road test, and it flung off on the side of the highway. I pulled over, picked it up, and turned it on. It's still working. So this little case is a big game changer. So inside the case, when you get your meter, it'll have a little quick reference chart that'll give you some tips and tricks on how to use the DVOM. You can also go on Fluke's website, and they show you a lot of different things that you can do with this meter. Diode testing, right here. You see we can test diodes and LEDs, right? An LED is a diode. You can test for microamps and AC and DC. So if you look at your symbols here, AC amps, DC amps, microamps. So we really don't deal with anything in a microamp range on a vehicle. This would probably be more like consumer-based electronics, computers, things of that nature. PCs, laptops, tablets, cell phones. Right here, milliamps and amps in AC and DC. And you can see down here you have a milliamp, microamp jack, and an amp jack, and these jacks are actually fused. So if I look at the amp jack here, it has a 10 amp fuse. So if I'm measuring amperage or current on something and I go over 10 amps, it's going to pop it. If I'm measuring milliamps or microamps and it goes over 400 milliamps, you can see right here, it's going to pop that fuse. So you always want to check your fuses and make sure they're in good condition. These meters do an internal fuse test for you. One way of getting that done, let's test this 10 amp fuse here. So I'm going to plug in my red lead into my 10 amp jack, leave my black lead in my common jack, and I'm going to turn this dial to anything other than amperage, which would be these two settings here. So let's just turn it over here. Okay, you can see how that meter is beeping, and on this particular Fluke it's flashing lead on the screen. That's its internal fuse test, so that beeping sound tells me that that fuse is good. It is not blown, so I'm okay to check current on this 10 amp fuse jack here. So let's test this 400 milliamp fuse right here. Let's see what we got. Okay, now that screen's not flashing to lead, and there's no beeping. And if you can see that, let me remove this lead. 400 milliamp fuse, that fuse is blown. My meter's not beeping. If my meter is beeping, that means that that fuse would be good. So we've popped this fuse in this meter, but we still have a good 10 amp fuse. And then this jack over here is going to be used for temperature, voltage, resistance, and diode testing. And these Fluke meters actually do come with a temperature probe that plugs in. They call it a thermocouple, that you could actually, check temperatures with as well. Really, really good kit here. So, a couple things. You can see we got AC voltage. If I'm testing 120 volt AC, 240 volt AC, things of that nature. DC voltage I'm going to use on most of my stuff automotive wise. Millivolts right here. Also, this is my temperature setting if I'm going to use my thermocouple. It's going to be resistance testing. It's going to be my diode test. And of course, milliamps and amps in AC and DC, and then microamps in AC and DC, which again, automotive wise, you're probably not going to use that. So a couple other things that you can do with this DVOM. Of course, you got a little backlight that you can turn on right here. Now, something that I would like to point out, you can see I got a couple different levels of light, so I was just going to use a little bit more of that 9-volt battery in that meter. Something else that I would like to point out on this version, on a Fluke 88 version 5 and a Fluke 87 version 5, let's say we're testing amperage. So I just moved my red lead over here to my 10 amp jack. It's telling me my fuse is good, so I'm going to come over here and turn it to amps. Okay, look at your screen right there. And let me see if I can get you a better picture of that. Okay, if you can see right up here in the corner, it says A for amps, but underneath it says AC. If you buy one of these newer Fluke meters, if it's a V or a version 5 right there, it defaults to AC voltage. So I have to use this little yellow button right here to change it to DC voltage. So if you're working on a car, it's going to be DC volts, not AC volts. Make sure that you switch that over, because if I leave it in AC volts and I'm measuring something that's in DC or AC current, it defaults to AC current. If I want to measure DC current, I have to hit that yellow button and change it to DC. You can see it switches to DC on the screen. If I don't do that and I'm measuring DC current in an AC current mode, reading's not going to be correct. You have to make sure to change it. So when you buy a new meter, maybe it's a Snap-on, a Blue Point, a Mac, a Matco, a Cornwell, whatever, read your little guide here, and read the book that comes with it, or the PDF that you can download off their website. Familiarize yourself with all this and utilize all these features on this meter. It'll definitely make your life easier in the shop. So that's just a little quick tutorial on a DVOM and how it works. So I hope this helps out. Thanks.